Hello everyone, my name is Hectic and welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a 2024 or beginning of 2024 updated tier list for all the weapons in Valorant. Yes, and I did include the Outlaw, which is somewhere in here actually. Maybe it's not. There we go, now we did add that in there because the Outlaw did get added to the game, so we do need to see where this one ranks, and some things have been changed about some of the weapons that may uh, place them somewhere else. Yes, so this tier list, we're back to uh, objective ranking here. Objectively, in each situation, how does each weapon rank up as best as I can from what's giving in stats, my gameplay experience, right? And pretty much taking in and out of the equation all the other BS that goes on in Valorant, right? So, given any situation, how would these weapons stack up? This is an objective tier list from what I can tell based off of using all of these weapons, right? So, let's get into the tiers. The top tier here is going to be best value in every situation. You use these weapons, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to get kills with these. That's going to be close range, medium, probably long range as well, as long as you're in the right situation. Now, this is not taking into fact the skill difference in every player, because assume from these tier lists objectively, we're going to assume that the player has all the skills necessary to do this. This is just how well will the guns function themselves if given every situation, if the player has the skills to take advantage of everything these guns have to offer, right? So don't type into comments, oh, but for lower elo players, this gun is good for stuff. Yes, but that doesn't matter because the gun could be good in any situation regardless of the rank, right? That's where really the guns are supposed to shine, right? So, best value in every situation. Next one is good value pick, regardless of the situation, right? It's not the best value that you could do, but you're still going to get really good value out of it if you pick up that weapon, and assuming that you use it in the right situations, that you're going to get kills with it, right? Next one is better. There are better options out there, but it's still a solid pick. This is basically saying it's mid, but no objective reason to avoid it, right? The next one is going to be better options. It's going to be weapons that maybe might be niche, or weapons that you could get some value out of it for like a few rounds, but you should probably trade up afterwards. And then next one is a knife is going to be a better choice, right? These are going to be weapons that the value is so garbage that you're pretty much better off running barehanded, which you're not in this game. But some of the weapons are pretty much equivalent to that. There are going to be a couple in here. I will tell you that. I did basically like a stoplight type of thing, if you couldn't tell, like green to red. So let's get into it. I don't like some of these images that they used on this one, but I can tell what they meant. We'll start off. I believe this is in alphabetical order, so we'll do it. But we're going to start off with a weird one. I do actually have to say before I do this that niche weapons, again, aren't really good weapons. I say that every time, and I still think that those are true. However, maybe I don't fall behind that belief so much anymore, right? My mind's a little bit more open to the situation that you could be in, but still, some weapons are niche and that stuff. We're going to start off with the shotguns. And starting off with the Bucky, a knife is going to be a better choice than running around with the Bucky. Ever since the Bucky's got nerfed, uh, especially with its right click ability, it's just been nerfed from the game. Use a judge. I know they cost a lot more. Um, it's better than probably using a shorty, but as a maybe not in some situation, but it just use a judge, right? Or use like a frenzy or some other weapon that has more ammo, right? The downside with the shotguns is, while yes, you can blast somebody up close, if for whatever reason that shot doesn't connect, you are screwed while trying to do it. It's not a slow uh, to do the next shot since it's pump action, but it is slow enough that in competitive FPS games like this, like Valorant, you will get shot, but from the time that it takes to pump the next shot, right? The Bucky is just not really that competitive anymore. You might get 1, 2 shots in there, but why use a Bucky when you can use a Judge? Even in its nerfed state, I'm gonna get there, right? Uh, uh, just some things that I noticed. Apparently, a Bucky can one shot you with full armor. Apparently, all the shotguns can still do that for some reason, which I didn't think was possible with all the nerfs that it is. But okay, maybe that was light armor. I thought it was full armor though too. But yeah, don't rely on a Bucky so much, unless if it's like 1v1 and you know they're going to play close quarters, right? But considering this is not like a secondary option, you're gonna be screwed, right? Unless you know that you're gonna trade up or something with that. But every situation given, just there's so many better options, right? So next up is the Judge. I'm going to put into the Judge now. I'm not ranking these off of their classes like pistol class, shotgun class, because that would actually jack this up a little bit. Because I would think most of the rifles and anything with fast a high fire rate is better than using a shotgun in pretty much any situation. Uh, so that's not really fair, in my opinion. But so in case you think, oh, I'm putting some pistols above a rifle and stuff, if you ever see that, that's basically what I say is that in every situation, that would be better than using a rifle in every situation. Not saying that all the pistols are better than the rifles per se, right? Because classes would screw up this tier list a bit more, right? The Judge overall on there are better options, but it is a solid pick, I would think. Yes, it's fairly expensive. They had the Judge nerfs, which I think don't really affect it that much. They made it have less ammo. I think it's 5 instead of 7. Does less overall damage, which I think it was cap. I don't see that much of a damage fall off, and the fire rate is uh, slightly uh, slower. Uh, for the power that the Judge has, that is not too much of an issue. It is a noticeable difference if you remember what the Judge was, but given the situations you're going to use it in, it doesn't matter, right? You don't need that super high fire rate from a Judge. I think the fire rate that it was at was fine, but I could see if it was like, there's the fire rate is too much. I could see why they would nerf it, so that way you'd use something like a frenzy, something, an actual secondary to really, or something with a lot more bullets and faster fire rate to really help get those kills. But the Judge is fine even with its nerfs. People are like, oh my god, it's terrible with the nerfs. No, it's not. Yes, I used it in the same situations. It doesn't really affect it too much, right? Right, but it does have faster fire rate uh, than the Bucky, and I believe it does do more overall. Does it do more overall damage? No, I thought that it did less, but whatever. The Judge is still a better pick because you can fire off multiple shots in case, like, an entire team tries charging you. For example, behind door, going into garage on Haven. I know Haven's not in the map pool right now, but to take that example, you could probably get 2 kills as long as somebody doesn't pre-aim you trying to trade off of that. You could still get in the right situations with that and probably get multiple kills off of it. You'll at least get 1 kill. This can one shot kill with every type of armor, right? Given the situations, even I think even to the body with full armor, I think that's one shot. If not, it's 2. But still, it'll get you a lot of value, and in the right situations, it can. Don't use it at longer ranges, but at closer ranges, and especially when you're trying to counter a rush, this could be a really good pick. There are better options in every other situation, but it's still good. Right, the shorty. Unfortunately, I'm gonna actually get this shorty a little bit more respect, but still, I think that it's still complete garbage. I'm gonna put it in a knife is better choice, but I'm gonna put it above the buggy. I've had some new light on there. Shorty has the faster fire rate than the Bucky, despite doing way less damage, right? And very, very niche situations. I would just say buy a frenzy instead of a shorty. But perhaps if you do know where they're gonna do hide, the enemy's gonna hide in predictable corners. You probably could pull up on them with the shorty and pop off those two shots. But in every situation that I've run into, uh, even with the best movement, the shorty just doesn't really work out too well because there's been so many situations where I dump even both shots aimed really well and exactly where I need to, and it doesn't deal enough damage to try to kill the opponent, right? And I'd be dead by that time. Or one of the shots misses, and by the time the second shot hits, I have to sit there and reload or pull out the other weapon, and by that time, I'm already dead. Which is why I say just buy a frenzy or something, but I could see in the exact right situations, it could be. This is another one of those niche situations, but I would actually trust a shorty now more than a Bucky, right? Please don't go on this on first round. Everybody keeps telling me all the strategy to go for first round. Don't do that. Yes, guarantee yourself some better kills by going pistols onto that. On any other round, fine. Buy a shorty. Buy any other secondary. That's fine. I'm not saying don't buy it shorty. Not anymore. But don't buy it first round on that, right? Most people are going to go pistols are going to stay at longer range. You might get one surprise kill if you're, especially if you're playing somebody like Yoru or Omen. Uh, you might get one kill and back off, but that's probably going to be temporary value because then the team's going to be like, don't play close range, and then you're freaking screwed, right? So I've shed a little bit more light on the shorty. I don't think that it's particularly good as a side item. I still think the frenzy outshines it, but it I'm not trashing on it quite as much as I used to. I'm still thinking that it's bad and definitely one of the worst guns in the game, besides maybe the Bucky. But yeah, it's still really, really bad in my guess. Right? All right, let's get it. Let's actually get into some of the side items. Speaking of these, starting off with the classic. The classic, I'm going to put in good value pick. Right, the classic and the ghost have been going hand to hand. There were a lot of times where I think, oh, the classic is better. Having does it have more ammo than a ghost? I literally forget. And I should have known this for how long I've been playing Valorant and all the times that I've done this video, this type of video. Uh, I'm, for once, not sure whether it does. I think it does or it does not. One of them has 12 shots. I know that for sure. Does the ghost have 15? And then two? Overall ammo, the classic does have more ammo overall than the ghost, but per magazine, I think the ghost has more with 15. Doesn't really matter in that one. What I consider here, it can be good at longer ranges. There is a damage fall off, of course, right? It can be closer at shorter ranges and medium ranges if combined well with some good movement or just good crosshair placement. Um, but so can pretty much all the other pistols, right? What would have separated this one from another? Of course, it is free. The cost is free, yes. But I'm actually not having that affect too much of choosing this over a ghost, and I'll get to it why. Um, but the classic right click, I think, from all the adjustments they've done, is still horrible. I would rather, even at point blank, I'd rather rely on single fire or just keep tapping uh, the semi-auto mode rather than using that shotgun mode. The shotgun mode, while yes, you can work in some things, I found it super unreliable for the longest time, right? Uh, but it can work occasionally, it can work even closer ranges on that. But I there's been a lot of situations where I did the right click and it didn't really work out. Where if I just like tapped in two more times with the single fire mode, I would have gotten the kill, right? And that was even at point blank range. So maybe that one is a skill issue on my part, but I did extensive testing from this, plus on top of the 2.5 years that I used the classic on there. I don't think the classic right click is that great anymore. I think Riot made that so unbalanced that it's not really usable. And for the firepower, it's decent for the fire for what you get. There's no real objective reason to avoid it, but I do think something like a Ghost, which we're going to cover next, is better. The Ghost, I am going to put in best value in every situation, really, as long as you use it. Ghost, I used to joke that, hey, Ghost just doesn't work when you want it to anymore, which sometimes can be true, but that's also the same with the Classic. I feel like the Ghost just packs more firepower than the Ghost. Yes, it has less ammo, but it doesn't have an unreliable shotgun mode. It does cost 500 credits, which is fine, but if you want to guaranteed more damage, I would probably just say use a Ghost. Plus, I think it has higher penetration than a Classic does, so you can use that for wallbang as well. Uh, I I actually find myself buying a Ghost a lot more, unless if I'm playing an agent that is very expensive, like Breach, or for some reason. But some of these agents where you want to buy abilities, uh, sometimes you're forced to stick with a Classic. But all the other times, I say probably buy a Ghost, right? Especially with Sova with their shock darts. Anytime you can get that little extra firepower, do so. Yes, I just think Ghost would be overall better at longer ranges. Close up, you might have a little bit struggle, but that's where aim is going to come in, especially with the Ghost. Um, but even at closer ranges, you could still do well with a Ghost in that case, and just with the unreliability and unpredictability of the classic right click, um, you'll still have a whole lot more damage. There is a damage fallout, but it's not quite as significant as the classics. So I would just recommend using the Ghost really over the classic, unless, especially on those first few rounds. Overall, around you probably would be sticking with the classic, but when you can, definitely do pick up and buy a Ghost as well. Right. Next up, we're going to talk about is the Frenzy. The Frenzy, I'm going to The Frenzy, I'm be going back and forth with. I'm gonna put in good pick regardless, good value pick regardless. Um, Frenzy recently, before I'd say episode like 7 Act 2 of that, it just seemed like I don't think they messed with the Frenzy, but one wasn't real used, and it just seemed like maybe I've been using some of these pistols too much, but I wasn't getting a lot of value out of it. Then I started using it again and rediscovering its power. Uh, that whole statement I just said may not have been necessary for this, but the Frenzy actually is powerful. It's always has been. Uh, Full auto, basically. For especially for close ranges, I would trust it more than a shorty. At longer ranges, you if you know how to control it and tap fire, you can get value out of it. Yes, granted, it was that lower elo, but I have sniped people from like 80 meters before with using the tap fire on the Frenzy. It's insane. The accuracy of this will surprise you if you can control the spray. So I'm putting it up here, assuming that players using this uh, would know how to do that, right? That's what's making this objectively a bit better. Full auto on this, be careful what to do because the recoil on this is quite high. You don't want to always go around spraying. Yes, you want to control your sprays. And even if you do accidentally do a full auto spray, make sure you still have some ammo left. You don't want to spray 13 rounds on one person and then reload and you still have 4 enemies left to deal with, right? That's not great. Given us that with the Frenzy, I do wish that it had slightly more ammo. It's just the complaints like that I had with Counter Strike's CZ with the CZ auto. I still wish it still falls with the same issues that that gun has, as far as I wish this had just slightly more ammo, even if it was like 3 to 5 more rounds. It doesn't have to be like 10, 15, 20. Just like 3 to 5 more rounds would make this a better overall sidearm. Probably for not only first round, but probably second and maybe even third round, right? Might even be competitive to a Stinger as far as what it uh, as far as close range combat goes, right? The damage output is fairly good. So in all situations, if you can control the frenzy, you will get value out of it, right? You just have to watch the ammo consumption, all of that. So that's why I put it up there. The sheriff, um, I, it's hard for me to put that in there or better options. Personally, I'm gonna put it in better options. From my testing on this, there's just so many other things that you could use from the sheriff. People think that sheriff is just this ungodly beast of a gun, and sometimes it can be. But my argument is, while yes, it's a secondary, why not just buy a sniper rifle at that point? Why not even buy just a Marshall? That uh, why not buy a Marshall that has like faster fire rate, and I think is a little bit actually a little bit more forgiving than the sheriff. Well, yes, it's like $100 more than the sheriff. You could still save that other inventory slot for something better, right? Like a frenzy for like close up, right? Yeah, to give it those situations, those are also those who buy just a sheriff and nothing else. Sheriff also is not a good save weapon. Don't just save down to a sheriff. At that point, just buy a marshal, right? You'll probably get more value out of it. I think it does do more. Does it? No, it doesn't do more damage overall than a marshal. So, uh, right. So it actually technically is worse a a marshal, but for side the pistols, it deals the most single shot damage, right? To especially the headshots and the body shots, I believe, are how much? Like 65, 55, something like that. But enough for you to get an assist if you get it. I guess in the right situations, if you needed that, you could use it. Again, I just say why not buy Marshall? Where you would really buy this if you really need that longer range, or if you're going like a sniper package, like for example in Marshall, you could buy a sheriff with that and just be like, if your Marshall isn't hitting, maybe you could whip out the sheriff for slightly faster fire rate. At that point, if you're not hitting your Marshall shots, you're not going to hit your sheriff shots either. I just feel like sheriff's in a weird ish spot. Of course, people that are good with it are going to be good with it, right? I see a lot of people with this. A lot of people spamming the freaking sheriff. I get sheriff spam like 3 times to the body all the time, and uh, I just didn't think that it was that accurate while trying to do that. Maybe they have controlled the recoil rate, which is fine if you've learned that, but most of the time I feel like that it is RNG and the recoil is not actually what it is, because a lot of the times when I do get spammed by it, it seems a lot faster than what it should be. And what I mean by that is the speed at which I get spammed by it is should have a significant accuracy decrease. It's not one to go bam 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 with, right? It's bam 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 pretty much. That's the speed of your 3 shots, and pretty much anything else is going to beat that uh, in fire rate while doing that. I think even a Marshall um, will even beat that out. That's maybe not, but yeah, that could just be me. But I just wanted to mention that maybe it doesn't have that much of an accuracy fallout, and if it's has that much of a fire rate, like I think, and that great of an accuracy, maybe it is better than a Marshall. But from what I know, there's um, really no reason to buy a sheriff, right? But it is definitely better than going with a Bucky or a Shorty. I would even say in closer ranges, yes. Because even if you tap them in the body while swinging those corners, you're pretty much guaranteed to hit if they're low, right? So that is that. That's all the secondaries, right? Let's get into some actual like weapons here. Let's go with the SMGs. This one is the Stinger. The Stinger, I have to think on a little bit. I think I'm still going to put this in best value in every situation. People still crap on me for thinking the Stinger is insanely good, but I I have uh, a video proof, and I have a lot of testing done behind it that would prove it otherwise, and even objectively saying that it's better, at least better than the Spectre. Right? We might have to bring out the competition with the Spectre. In overall, uh, yes, a lot of the rifles are going to beat out the Stinger. Yes, don't choose the Stinger over most of the rifles, but I would say definitely choose over the Spectre, right? And unfortunately, this one's up here because the Spectre exists. If the Spectre didn't exist, the Stinger would be way down there, right? But since the Spectre exists, this outclasses the Spectre. You kind of get that. I know a lot of these guns, I'm comparing it to only like one other and really making a judgment off of that, but that's most of the roles filling it. Because but I can't compare this to like a Phantom, right? Because a Phantom in most regards is going to win over a Stinger in most overall cases, but in some cases the Stinger could win even over rifles given every situation. At longer ranges, it's better than a Spectre, right? That burst fire is more accurate than you may think, right? But don't trash on burst fire, right? Uh, it can outdo some rifles. Probably you're probably going to be screwed against a Vandal because you do have to burst fire, then burst fire again. It's pretty much going to take two burst fires to head at super long ranges to really kill them with that. So you might get outgunned by a batch of rifles, but you could still engage at long ranges. This is definitely going to beat pistols and probably other SMGs like a Spectre, and potentially some rifles you can do. Medium ranges, I don't really like to talking about medium ranges. That's just average. Pretty much every weapon's going to be good at those ranges, right? That's where a lot of movement and stuff is going to happen. At close range, Stinger is really really good, right? At it could be a lot better. I mean, the spray is a lot. I would think a lot more controllable than what it used to be. Um, it used to be way way worse. The fire rate is still really good. The time to kill, you're pretty much guaranteed to kill as long as you control the recoil in that. Multiple kills is probably going to be another issue. The downside of this is it it can be hard not to blood the entire load on one target. So you're stuck there reloading while a team may rush you. So you're probably going to get one kill and then get traded out. But if you conserve the ammo well enough, you could probably get multiple kills. But I would trust it more than a Spectre, because Spectre doesn't really have the time to kill that a Stinger would, and you may even miss for the first target that comes through with the Spectre, right? So multi kills definitely possible. Probably not plausible all the time, but still definitely an absolute beast at close range, right? There was a lot of times where it's probably a skill issue where it's like I blew out the entire load. This one falls in the same problem that the Frenzy does. I wish it had slightly more ammo, and this one would probably be like five, anywhere between like 5 to 10 more ammo. Probably more like 10 more ammo per magazine, and then you'll have to figure out how much you want in total. To really make this the absolute best that it can be at close range, because like I said, sometimes you're going to get only one kill and then get traded out, but if you had even more ammo, you could probably get multi kills with this before having to reload, right? If you do well, good shots will probably have you about 10-ish ammo, right? Each shot is about 20, right? 10. Let's say that you overdid and had about 12 ammo spent out of 20. You still have 8 to engage the next target, but there's probably going to be about 2 people swinging you. And 8, well, 8 bullets, you probably could get another kill out of that. You might not as well. That's more of a 50-50. But Stinger still, I would still trust it over trying to do close range with a Spectre. I'll talk about that next. But that combined with its uh, longer range capability dueling with that, I think the Stinger is still a very, very solid choice. Great for eco as well. The Spectre is right behind there. I still think the Spectre is garbage compared to the Stinger, but overall, if you look at the Spectre by itself, it's actually not bad. But because the Stinger exists, of course, it's outclassed. Closer ranges, I would trust the Stinger more than the Spectre, right? Maybe yes, it may be way more forgiving. I think that you'd still have more potential to get multi kills and reposition better during reloads than with this. There's been a lot of times at point blank that the Spectre just didn't work for me. Um, Medium ranges, you could probably get some. Long range, this is not a long range weapon. I don't know why we're still sniping people across the map with the Spectre. It should not have that accuracy. In fact, in my long range test, it only achieved about a 75% accuracy compared to the Stinger's about 89% accuracy. And some of the rifles achieved into upper 80s, 90%, right? Spectre should they nerfed that long range stuff, which apparently they didn't do hard enough, but from my testing of it, I think they did fine with it. I don't know why you're using this at super long range anyway. uh, I would trust the burst fire of a Stinger more. All around, it could be really, really good. Just don't use it at longer ranges and you're fine, right? Uh, Closer ranges, you're probably going to get a couple kills out of this, but I feel like that uh, it it just doesn't have the time to kill at closer ranges to really make it that effective. But you can get better spray control and better recoil control with it, so maybe you could, right? The problem really with the Spectre, and I know that I'm hating on it, is yes, it's just a battle between the Stinger and the Spectre. And it's really also coming down to that longer ranges. Some of you are going to argue that the Spectre is better at closer ranges. Maybe. Maybe. But on paper, and especially from my testing and in-game experience, Stinger has been better at that. But at longer ranges, Stinger, in every situation, at least that I put in, outdoes the Spectre, and that's really the driving factor of that. You want an all around great weapon in every situation, more than a niche weapon, right? So that's a Spectre. No really objective reason to avoid it except for with that. But I feel bad trying to put the Spectre. Actually, given that and what we're about to put in there, I will actually bring down the Spectre into good value pick regardless. Um, I actually, now that I'm thinking all back on this logic, I might bring down the Stinger back there as well. Let's get through the rest of the video, then I'll think about that as well. Moving on to some of the rifles in here. Phantom, I'm going to put up there. I think that it is indeed superior to the Vandal. Faster fire rate. I think slightly better recoil control. Yes, it does less damage, but just learn to tap fire with the Phantom, right? And I've learned to control it to where I can spray down a target and get some kills with it. Uh, that it's not really that much of an issue with the spray. Especially if you're tending to spray more than like actually tap fire, I would recommend the Phantom. On paper, I think the Phantom is better than the Vandal. While yes, the Phantom does have damage fall off at closer ranges. I mean that can be assisted with ADS as well as just tap fire, my man, right? Phantom ADS is also insane. That's underrated, right? Careful when you spray more than like 15 shots. That's when it really really goes wild. You don't want to be constantly spraying with ADS, but you can't get away with it. So in both factors, it's pretty darn good. Um, if you want absolute range, probably guarantee kills at range, probably use a Vandal, but definitely closer ranges and the time to kill, fire rate, more ammo, everything pointed to the Phantom being better. I trust the Phantom more than the Vandal, and I've actually been trying to use the Vandal a lot more, and it's just now I get more value out of the Phantom. Uh, it's There's really not a whole lot of disadvantages to buying a Phantom. Really, it's the same cost as a Vandal, um, and it can be used in every single situation as a Vandal should. What's really getting me is how you can get outdueled at closer ranges with the Vandal. That just doesn't really make sense, really, to me, because I think that's more RNG and stuff. Because Phantom should objectively, in most situations, especially closer range, should outdo a Vandal in fire rate, time to kill, right? And I would think better accuracy. So I would recommend using a Phantom over a Vandal. Vandal's also going to go up here for that. It's unfortunately dominant enough. I wouldn't say stray away from a Vandal, but I'd say at least try the Phantom. Um, Vandal doesn't have a damage fall off at all, which could be a benefit over the Phantom, but you can compensate for that with the Phantom just by with more shots, right? And if you're that good enough, you'll throw in movement there. More shots isn't going to be that much of an issue if you're really really good. Uh, so Vandal at longer ranges may initially outdo a Phantom. I tend to use Vandal if I know that it's at closer ranges and something like a Sniper or a Guardian isn't going to cut it for me. But I don't use it in every single situation. I'm usually buying a Phantom. Or if I just happen to pick up a Vandal because it was better than the weapon I just had, I'd I'd use it, right? The first shot accuracy of the Vandal I've actually learned is actually not that accurate. All the other shots really are. The Vandal's really been missing in a lot of places where it should have some really really good accuracy, which is why I also trust the Phantom more. Um, you'll probably know where I got that opinion from if you watch a lot of pro play and stuff on YouTube on there. Not that I'm believing everything on YouTube, but I did put it into practice and noticed that. A good Vandal player is still going to wreck a lot of people, but it shouldn't compared to a Phantom. But there's really no reason to avoid it because you do have the range advantage, no fall off, deals more overall damage per shot than the Phantom, right? Less ammo isn't going to be a problem if you make every shot count, right? I just think in the closer ranges, the Phantom is going to be better than that. Plus, it has more ammo. I would say everything's pointing to that, but really, these two are going to battle it out until one of these two gets nerfed enough that one becomes obsolete. I really think the Phantom is that much better than the Vandal, but from what I've seen, the Vandal's still dominant, right? I lost a lot of fights up close on there. I don't understand it, so I'm gonna blame it on me and say that's skill issue. And I guess you could use it at every single range. It should be. The Bulldog, um, Bulldog's gonna go into good value pick regardless. Mainly as well for its 3 round burst or burst fire mode. ADS is still really really good. It's always been really really good. Its full automatic mode non ADS is yikes, right? I still think there needs a lot of work on that as far as accuracy goes because it's whenever I do that it's like oh shit I gotta spray somebody down. It's 50-50 in my mind. I question it every now and then whether it can pull it off, but uh, you could still definitely get a lot of kills non ADS with a Bulldog, right? Just be wary that it can be unreliable at times, and I don't know if it's just the nature of that weapon or if there's something in the game that's not really unbalanced. But uh, it is better than what it used to be. That full auto mode is a lot better than what it used to be. It used to be so garbage. Even at closer ranges, I was ADSing. I didn't trust it at all. Now I'll trust it a little bit more, actually a lot bit more, but not so much that like at longer ranges I would want to like tap fire or use the non ADS mode at, in every given situation, but it works most of the time with that. Sometimes it doesn't. But the fire rate, it's still a good option, like about third round, if you still need to run this in light shields or save something at some point. It's still good, and you don't have enough money for a Phantom or Vandal. It'll get the job done. Uh, like I said again, the burst fire mode is still incredible. It's better than Stingers, all of that stuff. Actually, I am going to bring down the Stinger back down here. I think that makes sense uh, for that. But the Bulldog, especially its ADS mode, is reliable. Just don't use that up close, right? Because every anything with a faster fire rate than burst fire, which is everything else, is gonna wreck you, right? But it has fairly good accuracy. So that's enough about the Bulldog before I start going in circles to do that. The Guardian, uh, you know how I feel about the Guardian. When I do it, it's still going in best value in every situation. Um, but it will go under Phantom and Vandal. Usually I put this all the way above. Long range, long as you hit those shots, it's good. It's really really good. Uh, and that goes for any range, even point blank. I've gotten some insane point blank kills with the Guardian, out dueling operators, marshals, now even outlaws, phantoms, vandals, stingers, buckies, all of that. I've outdone them with the Guardian before, right? So with the skill in there, uh, the Guardian is a dangerous weapon. And even if you don't hit that shot, 65 damage to the body is enough to damage that you will get the assist. So um, that's not bad. Uh, but if somebody is really really good with another sniper, you could be screwed trying to challenge them. But objectively, this has some of the best besides the sniper rifles. It has the most damage output, even more than the Vandal per shot, with 195 to the head, 65 to the body, and I forgot what to the feet. I think like 45, um, which in one shot is better than the Vandal, right? Um, and I don't think there's any damage fall off with that either. The ADS mode is still extremely accurate, but I don't recommend doing it up close because after about 3 shots of spamming it with ADS, it goes wonky. I don't recall it ever being like that, but you shouldn't be spamming with the Guardian either. But uh, it can work in a clutch because of how much damage it actually does. But you should be tap firing all the time with the Guardian, and that's where you'll get most of its value out of. It's going to be out of taking those single shots, making sure your crosshair placement is nice, and then just lighting up the opponents with 1 shots each time, or 2 to 3 shots to the body, right? 130 if they have light shields, and it'll do what 195, I think, with 3 shots to the body, right? If you absolutely have to. So it's still a really really good weapon, and I trust it more than my sniping abilities with the other snipers. But there is going to be a gun that's going to outdo this, actually. But yeah, very, very competitive with this in every situation. Um, Using one of these rifles, Phantom Vandal might outdo a Guardian, but a skilled Guardian player, again, it's competitive enough that I can put it on the same tier as a Vandal or a Phantom. It will come down to the skill of the player. So that's why it's up here, because I'm trying to factor in saying that the skill of the player. So objectively, it's reached its max, which is best in every situation. Now it fluctuates based off of the skill of the player. So I'm not going to let that impact. So the Guardian's still going to go up there. It's still really, really good. The Marshal is another one of those that's also really, really good. I don't think I need to tell about that. It can be good uh, at any range if used correctly with the proper discipline. Has two shots that are fairly quick. Has a fairly quick fire rate. Guardian has faster, but its damage output is more than that of the Guardian per shot. Um, and if you are really good with the Marshal, you could do really well. Especially its no scope accuracy, especially crouch no scope, is very, very good. That is incredibly good. Um, I would encourage you to try to practice that because at some point it seems incredible. Because if you are in a clutch and it actually takes, like, I know it's milliseconds, but it does take time to scope in, and unless you're pre-scoping, which I'm seeing a lot more of, uh, the no scoping and taking that few milliseconds to scope in could be the difference between life and death. So it could save you in a lot of situations, and if especially if you're taking long range duels, consider either Guardian or the Marshal, right? If you want more of the damage, uh, choose the Marshal, but the downside is going to be slightly less fire rate and only two shots before you have to reload, so Guardian might dink you. But if you land your shots, uh, you'll outduel everything, and it falls in with the same situations as a Guardian. Even close up, you can get wrecked by it. Uh, right? A lot of the snipers, especially Martial Operator Outlaw, really work best when you can hit your shots, unfortunately. Talking about the Operator, I'm going to choose in. It's either good value pick. I'm going to choose better options, but solid, only because I do have to compete these with rifles in general. Operators, as from a sniper perspective, is really, really good. Uh, Especially that it's a one shot to the body, one shot kill to the head, right? If you're really, really good with it, it's going to be good. And it forces the team to try to play around it or suffer the consequences, even with how low of a fire rate it is. It is very unforgiving, though, of if you miss your shots. Um, if you miss your shots with it, you probably wasted the value of it. That's why I don't use the op so much, um, because I would have wasted like 4,700 credits missing a shot, and in that time that it takes me to try to set up another shot, taking in account that the team has probably moved position since then, I could be dead, right? And it's an expensive investment, but for the value of that, if you do want to try to guarantee a kill with the opponent and you have the skills and the confidence for it, it could be a good pick for you. But just know you're going up against rifles and even better sniper caliber rifles against it that will challenge it. A Guardian and a Marshal are both competitors to the Operator. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it is competitive with. But at closer ranges, you're probably not going to hit any shots unless if you're pre-scoped, which is BS. That's what I'm seeing a lot with operators now. Is people are just so good they can pre-scope that. I'm like, okay. Uh, it has terrible no scope accuracy. It's no scoping. Do not no scope with an op unless you're up close or know exactly where the missed shots are going to go to counteract that. No scoping is pretty much a no go with the operator. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but don't rely on it more than the toggled in scoped version. But can provide value, but it is situational. I would just say that there are definitely better options because you have to, I would say, run a rifle or a better sniper if you're going to do that. Now talking about the Outlaw, I'm going to put in best value in every situation, and I'm going to put it above a Marshal and a Guardian. Right, this gun is absolutely cracked right now, and unfortunately, I feel like I see nerfs incoming because that's just the way that it's going to roll. But I'd say leave it where it is. In my video, it's breaking down the Outlaw. And by first playing of it, I said that this is a competitor, if not a successor, to the Marshal, and I'd have to see if this would be make the Marshal obsolete or not. And so, okay, so I would say yes. Again, these guns are really, really, really only great if you can hit your shots, and I'm assuming that you will hit your shots with them to make this tier list fair. Um, but objectively, even objectively, it's better than the Marshall, except for in fire rate. It has a lower fire rate, worse no scope accuracy. I think, from what I've seen, worse no scope accuracy than even the operator, but way more damage output than the Marshall. And I think the two shots that you do fire has a faster fire rate. I think. Um, maybe it. I think maybe it is slower. I'm not sure, but I thought that it was that having a faster fire rate than the Marshall. I think actually it does. So this is like a two shot. It's a bang bang type of sniper rifle. Actually, that's probably about the fire rate that it is. Um, Very good accuracy as long as you hit your shots, right? Even the you miss the first shot, the second shot can hit. 140 damage to the body. That is a hell of a lot of damage. If you're, that will destroy light shields. That's giving you a reason to buy heavy shields. I've seen all these theories that, oh, you should never buy heavy shields anymore. The Outlaw now exists. You probably should be buying heavy shields now if you want to survive rounds, right? Because if you buy light shields, it's one shot, you're dead, right? To the headshot, it deals more damage uh, than the Marshall. Does it? I forgot if it does more damage than the operator at with headshot thing. I'm not sure. I'd have to redo that, but it is definitely more than the Marshall. I think it's a 235 compared to 255 with the operator. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, with its faster fire rate, it just those two shots and its accuracy, it's even a competitor to even an operator itself, right? And it's 2,400 credits, which is that's a tempting and I think a well balanced credit amount to really make it competitive. Do you want to buy the Marshall? Buy the Marshall. Do you want to buy a Guardian with it, or do you still trust in the operator on this? Right? It makes you think about the purchase that you're about to make on it. If you can't hit your shots, if you're not great sniping, don't use this gun. Do not use it. Right? I do think that it's a little bit forgiving, but it was actually a lot less forgiving than I thought originally. But it is still somewhat forgiving. A Marshall is more forgiving than the Outlaw, but it's still fairly forgiving. Like I said, if you can rapid fire those two shots off accurately, and every situation you account for each situation, right? If you learn to be good with this, this will decimate teams at any range, really. Um, I think that it's even better than a Guardian, honestly. Definitely better than a Marshall, in my opinion, and a competitor to an operator. I The operator actually I think still has the one shot kill to each one, so I don't think that it is. But it's a 2,400 credit operator basically with two shots, right? 2 out of 10. You do have to be aware of that. I would definitely buy a secondary with this I know because if you start missing your shot, you need something to trade off of it in case somebody rushes you or something while you're trying to figure out the best positions. Um, if you're insane with the Marshall, you're probably going to be insane with this. And probably same with the operator, but just note that if you don't get a one shot kill, just don't be surprised by it. Just fire off that second shot, assuming they're still in the same position, and you'll probably get that kill. This this addition to the game is very very interesting, and like I say a lot of times when one guy gets added to balance, something should be deleted from the game. That might happen with the Marshall. I'm still debating whether or not there could be some advantages with the Marshall, more ammo. I don't think it has more fire rate. I think that it. I'd have to still think about which one is more forgiving. It's definitely less credits, but I would probably say save up to get an Outlaw, especially if you're that good. But yeah, probably less ammo on that. It actually has worse no scope accuracy, definitely than the Marshall. So if you're into no scoping, if you want If you're like, oh, scoping in isn't great, I'm gonna have to no scope at times, but I still want to snipe. Consider buying a Marshall over an Outlaw. Um, but I in most situations I'd say buy an Outlaw. Marshall might be fading out of existence here, and same thing probably with an Operator. Except the problem with the Operator is that it's a one-shot kill, practically no matter what, except for like the legs. But the Outlaw is like one shot away from doing that as well, especially to the body shot. I was way surprised when they added that. I thought it was going to be like, make you consider that more. Like, there's going to be way more situations that you would use a Marshall for, or it would be a slightly worse Marshall, but maybe with better fire rate or accuracy or something like this. Um, yeah, I still tend. I've been using this a little bit. I've gotten about like only 5 kills with it, really, which isn't anything to boast about, but a lot more than I thought. That's also a lot less than I thought, because then I realized, oh yeah, I can't snipe. So uh, there's reasons why I'm still going back to a Guardian, but objectively, if you look at it, it's better, probably the best sniper rifle than that, and even probably better than the Guardian. The Guardian is probably the only one that I could say that's a competitor too, but I think that it makes the Marshall obsolete and starting to make the Operator obsolete. And this is the first time that I'm saying, please, Riot, don't nerf this gun so hard that it's not going to be that, because I have a feeling that they're going to nerf it to make the Marshall a much better pick, and then the Outlaw is not going to be picked already. The Marshall still does have some playtime over the Outlaw, but I'm just afraid that that's what's going to happen. And yes, I would be okay if the Marshall just suddenly starts to fade, because I don't know if that's their intention or they buff something. They're going to have to work with the balance between these two. Or they could just leave it and be like, okay, maybe the small advantages the Marshall does have over the Outlaw, Riot Devs could be like, maybe that's enough to entice people to still try to buy it, right? I don't think a credit change or a cost change is going to be enough to persuade one or the other. I just think the Outlaw is just flat out too good for the Marshall from everything that I've seen from it, and especially on paper, it's definitely better. So I know that took quite a while. That's probably like 5-6 minutes that I spent just talking on the Outlaw, but whew, a very interesting addition to the game, and this is really going to question in the concept of balance, because also, as I said, sorry, I'm going to mention this again, they do have to question in the balance with the Operator, because I'm gonna say just buy an Outlaw more than an Operator as well, right? Because even if it's not one shot kill, you can still follow it up with the second shot, which is going to be absolutely devastating regardless, right? So, yikes, right? So now we have 2 more weapons to go off of, and that is the Ares and the Odin. The Ares, I do have to think about it overall. There's one place where there's really one reason why I'm thinking that I should put it in better options. I'm going to go ahead and put it in a knife is better. It's a better choice, due to the fact that ever since the Ares got buffed like about 3-4 episodes ago, and everybody thought, oh, that's OP, when it really wasn't. That was actually the balance that it needed, and it was competitive with the Odin. It was very, very competitive with the Odin. It didn't outdo the Odin completely, but it did outdo it enough to make it competitive. Actually, what it mainly outdid was a Spectre. Uh, they reverted it back to making it almost worse than even what it was before that buff. And ever since that, I knew what the potential of that Ares buff was. The nerf to it is just yikes. They made the ADS fire worse than its normal fire, which I still use the ADS fire because it's like, if I'm going to use it, I'm going to use it to wallbang and I can control the spray regardless. But Still, I would say use a Spectre over an Ares in most of the situations. I only use it for wallbangs, specifically on bind, hookah B, right? Uh, but if you're gonna get that much trouble, save up for an Odin or buy a Spectre on that. I do think Ares might be slightly better at range than a Spectre. That's debatable, but definitely at closer ranges, Spectre is gonna give you a better chance than the Ares. And I just think the Ares has fallen off so much, especially since that buff and then a re-nerf. That buff, while it may have seemed overpowered, was not. They fixed it recoil enough, and they made it accurate enough to where it could actually be fairly competitive, right? And it'd be like for a cheaper cost. It was at that point it was almost a better Odin, but I think Odin was still even more accurate than an Ares. So Ares really the objective thing is to either just save up for an Odin or buy something like a Stinger or a Spectre or even like a Phantom instead of using it. Unless if you're gonna do a lot of wall bangs and you can't afford an Odin. In that case, Odin is gonna go. I've also had a lot more light shed on the Odin because I actually used it a lot. I got placed way deep into low elo, worse than my episode 7 act 3 rank, and I've been using the Odin. While yes, probably a cheap method to get back, I've been using the Odin a lot to climb back up. It's been doing that. Do I put this in better option? Best value every situation? I don't think so. Maybe good value pick regardless. This might actually. I know the Odin I've been putting in one of these two tiers really. I don't remember putting it in here. I'm thinking from recently. I'm thinking that it's at the very least right here, if not even higher. I'm trying to think if there's any argument to keep it away from up top, which I'm starting to think there is, but I don't think that it's quite as bad as these. I'm gonna put it in good value pick regardless. Now here's the thing with the Odin. To absolutely spray down people with about 200 ammo at this, just spray down, especially when people rush, which is most of the strategy nowadays, is super super good. It has great wallbang potential. The spray is controllable um, with it. I just think that it's a good option, underrated option to use. And people are like there's no skill with the Odin. Actually, there is, right? Because you have to think of, all right, what's the situations that I'm going to use them in, especially if your team plays predictable positions or always play wallbang spots. Consider an Odin because you can just know where they're going to be at and just mow them down that way. While yes, it may be a cheesy method of doing that, it's still legitimate, right? Because that's absolutely punishing the team for doing the same things over and over, especially those wallbang spots. Uh, with it, the only thing that's really hindering the Odin is the slightly less fire rate than the Ares and the cost of 3,200. But I think that if you uh, save up enough for it, if you manage your economy enough for it, you can get value out of this. And I'm not talking only on like bind where places are wall bangable. I'd say in most pretty much every map, the Odin can be devastating if you use it. I've done it at super long ranges before. I've been both sniped by an Odin and snipe people with an Odin, whether it's spray or some at the tap fire. It's funny as heck to do it. Maybe not as funny when you're on the receiving side, but then I do it to other people and I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I see that. And that is a gun thing. It's surprisingly much more accurate than you may think. It may not be sniper rifle or even regular rifle accurate, but it makes up for that with its fire rate, right? If somebody 90 meters away doesn't aim very well or takes too much time trying to shoot you from that range, which I've happened a lot of times, how most of my long range with the Odin duels go, you'll absolutely punish them. There's no stopping that, right? Now they can put on some movement on you and just blast you with a good one tap peek afterwards, which is what you would have to think of. That's why these rifles are going to be better than the Odin. It is counterable, but don't disrespect it, right? If you think I'm going to push this Odin or I'm going to challenge it when you know that the fire rate is going to make up for most of its failures, you're probably going to be dead. That even I've ran into that mistake where I've ego peaked an Odin and I paid for it. Sometimes I've ego peaked an Odin and it works, right? It's a balancing act, but I think that it's at least makes the opponents think, hey, do we still want to push this? Do I still want to try to challenge him at range, or do we just want to not advance that angle at all? Play something else. Most teams end up doing both. It's absolutely funny when it's like, hey, I just mowed down two of your teammates with an Odin, and then somebody yet still swings the exact same angle trying to trade off with them, and I mow down them as well. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. Yeah. I have 200 ammo in this thing, and I haven't let off since. So yes, I expect you to just come and try to trade me off, right? But Odin, I think, is actually a sleeper. Well, the most hate around this is also the same thing with the Judge, is that it's just that it is, people think that you're disrespecting it when you're actually using it as a legitimate strategy. Now, I wouldn't say just use this in every single strategy over one of these. That would just be, of course, no skill with that, right? Like, don't use it. Hey, I'm gonna peek like long mid, like 90 meters every single round with an Odin trying to engage in long range duels. Don't do that. Don't engage at long range unless you have to, absolutely have to, with an Odin, right? Try to play those closer range, especially wallbang angles, and try to just mow him down, especially when you rush. Yes, it's kind of niche, but the damage and the time to kill makes it really, really good. I've been using the Odin a lot more for these reasons. Just be like, I know that I'm going to mow down people if they keep doing the same things over and over, right? Right, and it's definitely better than buying an Ares, but I wouldn't recommend it over the rifles in every situation, right? In some situations, I would say, right, get the Odin and try in most situations and see how it is, but yeah. That's going to be, actually, let's go ahead and rank these from worst to best. What I would think before we conclude this video. Starting off in the bottom tier in here, I'm going to put the Ares, the Shorty, and then the Bucky. Yes, I think the Ares still has more value in most cases than the Shorty. It's going to be the Shorty. Usually I would put behind the Bucky, but I decided to respect it a little bit more. I respect its name a little bit more, and the Bucky is just going to be absolute garbage, right? Better options, well, there was one gun in that one. The Operator versus the Judge, that's one's a tough one. These are two entirely different ones, especially comparing them to each other. In most situations, I don't see myself buying an Operator for more situations than that, because this one is hard, because Operator, you're probably going to do that for long range, and the Judge are going to do for close range, and both of these really fail at doing the job at other things. You wouldn't use a Judge at super long range, medium maybe. You wouldn't use an Operator at close range unless you're absolutely cracked. That's probably going to be the opponent's fault, because they should be in a better position to not get sniped by an Operator. So I'm going to leave it like this. That's a hard one. Good value picks out of these ones here. I'm going to put some respect on the Bulldog's name on that one. I'm going to then actually choose an Odin, Stinger, Classic just for the range on that, and then the Frenzy. This is not a disrespect to the Frenzy. That is still a really, really high good pick for the Frenzy, right? I just think at further range, I think that the Classic will do that, but at closer range, it's a tie between these two, right? That's what I'm going to do. So then up here, uh, I'm going to put the Phantom. I'll put the I'll put the Vandal after that, then the Outlaw. Um, I'll put the Guardian, the Marshal, the Ghost, and then the Spectre up on that one. So best new name, although because the Vandal, although that does have close range, yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that. Um, this is pretty much why these two guns occur because wherever one of the guns follows, the other one will. Phantom and Vandal, I feel like will always be competitive with each other until one just gets insanely buffed or nerfed to the ground, right, or to the sky. Unless if they drastically change both of these, I think those are always going to stay. But the Outlaw is now a top 3 competitor in this game, right? Again, assuming that you can hit your shots, but this gun is absolutely devastating. So Phantom is now our new best gun in the game, for what I could tell objectively, and the Bucky is now the newest worst. So this is going to be my tier list for the beginning of 2024 tier list. We'll do this again midway through, so about May, June timeframe, and then again like November, December timeframe at the end, in case all of these change. Right? My name is Hectic. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.